troops, welcome to episode 7 of PG and Dax Dream Football Podcast. The show this week is Chris Strain and Ian Cashmore of co-winning Rangers. Proud sponsor of the show today is Slick Barbers, right, and they're going to sort out my lockdown haircut. Alright troops. Starting calling my man, best barber in Glasgow. Going to sort this lockdown out for me. Super hell man, let's do it. Oh, fucking hell man, look smashing this in there. How about that troops there? Much better. Well, what a guy mate. Cheers. Yeah, haircuts are now home. Get yourselves down to Slicks.
Joshy, how are you? When you just go to training? What? Assistant isn't a thing. No.
Right, so Meadow Strain's had his conversation.
We are on, Mr. Strain.
That's me. Sorry, I've just got two of them in. That's me. Apologies.
Many ways you go, Strainy.
3 boys, and they're all at football training.
Well, that's us. We have started recording already, so we know that your boy got an assist. Good on him, mate.
And here, don't let him tell you otherwise. They do count assists nowadays.
Come here.
Get a wee man in.
I get him in.
That's brilliant.
All right, young
You get an assist, wee man.
Yeah.
Brilliant, wee man. You don't let your dad tell you otherwise. Super.
No a thing. No a thing. Assist.
Brilliant.
Well,
Right,
cheers for
PG
coming
bar
on.
in, mate.
I know, mate. I'm not sure if I should start though. I don't know what's going on.
Bring the rest of them out.
I know, throw this. Well, cheers for coming on, lads. It's much appreciated.
That was good. Thanks for asking us.
Thank you.
Listen, lads, I've got a couple of songs here that I normally do, right? So we'll go for it. We're calling all the buffs. We've got Chrissy Strain. Calling Mr. Strain. You know what he wants, and they want it now. The buffs want success with Super Chrissy Strain.
Mate,
Right.
I think that might be one of your best ones, to be honest.
Yeah.
Definitely.
By the way, that's a thumper. That would go far. And here's one for Cashew.
Oh, here we go.
This one's a bit slow. Don't you wish you had a striker like Ian Cashmore? Don't you wish he played and scored goals for you? Cashy. Cashy. Are you the only club that he hasn't played for? Cashy.
I tell you what, see, since we're
Only
playing
13.
songs, I've got a wee song that you want to help us, Cash, you help us and all.
Aye, 2 seconds, mate. Just a second till I sort something out here.
All right, no worries, mate, no worries.
Special occasion, that right? Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, birthday to you. Happy
Happy birthday,
dear
dear Strainy.
Happy
Happy
birthday
to you.
A cream egg cake.
I tell you what, that looks pish compared to the cake I got you.
Handmade with a good lady.
By the way, I've seen that. That looks amazing, man.
I'm setting this house on fire, man. These things still sparkling.
Very bullet.
Balloons and all. Happy retirement. That was all I could get you.
Oh. You've not liked the blue one?
No, I thought for the buffs, actually I had blue and green. Well,
Listen, I made a song up for Cashew when we played at Ayr United together.
Oh, that's right, man.
let's hear it.
Aye.
What was it?
Cashew's song was, "Oh, he's a grave digger, scores all the time, and he digs for me."
On you go.
The grave
Remember that?
digger.
That was class. That was brilliant.
Dumbarton away, Cashew. Dumbarton away, the grave digger.
See, to be fair, on the grave digging, Cash, I mind when we were at Cumnock together, you used to always talk about like cutting the graves into like certain lines and all that at a football pitch.
Aye, we don't cut the grass anymore. We just dig it. But I used to strike the grass. Aye, that was my. I enjoyed that.
Guess what, lads? But you know what? It's brilliant, man. We've probably not been far off for 10 minutes here. We haven't even started talking football.
What about that? I was just thinking about when
Who cares? Know what I mean? Who
she used
cares?
to tell us these stories, and I thought, some poor bastard's going to go down to their granddad's grave and Cashew's picked diagonals across it and all that. But
Aye.
before we start, for all listeners, just before we came on, Strainy was saying, I said about I wanted to watch a football and that, but sadly we've missed it because tonight's the Scotland-Austria game. And Strainy went, "Oh, it's my birthday." Says, and Cashy texted us earlier, and I didn't think. Cashy texted you because I fucking told him it was your birthday.
No, I knew it was. I didn't know why to text and tell you.
I texted
No, I
you,
knew.
it's Strainy's birthday, and you went, "Oh, aye, so it is."
Aye, because you texted me that this morning.
Anyway,
it's the first party we've had on PG and Dax, man. So it wasn't with me.
I know.
Well, listen, last year I missed my 40th birthday. I'm 41 the day. I missed my 40th 2 days after lockdown. Bang, party, the full lot missed. So I'm privileged that I can actually have a party with you guys. That's good.
Brilliant, mate.
Honestly,
Brilliant.
it's just him. Your cake's lovely.
Yeah, we should get them down to the Cozy one Sunday. How good's that?
Oh, Cozy could they cope with these two?
So, let's talk about football.
Right, let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
We'll start with the two yous playing at the Buffs together. How was that back then?
I didn't play with Cashy the first time he was at the Buffs, and I was just retiring when he played at the end there. So we probably didn't have a good spell playing together. Our time together was probably when we were at Ayr for the season. We were together at Ayr, but we kind of missed each other. Although we
I
played,
just watched you at Ayr.
although we played like in the same kind of era right through, I certainly didn't play as often with Cashy as I probably would have liked to have.
I'm sorry, I'm eating that cake.
I say, wait, Dan Miller done all that eating. I'll take care here.
Mate, I go on you go.
No, you batter in, mate.
Right.
Batter.
See, in terms of, obviously, with both of you being at Buffs now, Cash, you were part of the Scottish Cup winning team, weren't you? Please tell me you were. Right, my fucking research has been shite tonight.
No.
But in terms of when you...
I went there 2003.
Right, well, okay, that's fucked me then.
Cashy, what age are you, Cashy, man? I left school at 2004, man.
I'm 38 now, man.
Sorry, Robert.
Feeling it.
Right, how were the Buffs?
PG, what a start you've had tonight. What a start.
Mate, absolute nuke, man, honestly. How were the Buffs back then compared to how they are now?
I played with the majority of the cup winning team. I just came before Cashy, just kind of after that, 2002, 2003, 4 I was there, I think. Cashy, that must have been 2001 to 2003, because you signed the season I left. I fell out the Mark Shanks, but the majority of the cup winning team were still there, and they were a brilliant, top team, as you can see with the honours that they've obviously got. But guys in there like Mark Cameron, Pam Curry, try to think, Paul Mullen, a stalwart there. You had Charlie Adams, you had Tucker, it's Auchinleck manager, Stevie Farrell. So real top pros that were there, and you had some kind of what you would call guys that have done everything in the game, but they were all leaders. So in terms of how the team is now in comparison to then, we're not quite there, but we're getting there. We've got a lot of boys that are younger in age group in terms of the guys that every one of them I mentioned there are all vastly experienced, and they were vastly experienced at that time. What we've got is a nucleus of a young team that can grow up together and hopefully emulate what the guys did. But in terms of their ability and stuff like that, I see a lot of comparisons. The difference in the game itself is physicality. That's a huge difference to. I mean, I probably caught the tail end of your big Ashes and stuff like that played, and then played right through an era where the game at junior level just changed dramatically. Used to get punched in the back of the head regularly, and then it went to that they couldn't tackle anybody. So it was the game's evolved, and it's certainly not the same game at all in comparison to when I started it 40 years ago.
It's one of the ones I'll come back on to talking about in terms of the club, but I want to talk about, see, when you were at Meadow, how did you find that? Obviously Meadow pretty much the Darvel of back then, you know what I mean, the way it is now, where everybody wanted to talk about the money and all that. How was it for you being there with your dad in particular, being the manager?
My dad's scenario, with my dad, the scenario wasn't that difficult. It was in did your job, and away you go. I wasn't treated like his son at the time when you were there, so it was quite easy to bury it. Don't get me wrong, you get a laugh and a joke and the boys slaughtered you and whatever else. I mean, they still slaughter me. We've got a group chat with all the old boys that used to play in the Meadow. I think that's something that people maybe don't realise, that how tight-knit bunch of boys we were. When I went in at first, there was a big squad and it got whittled down probably. There was a lot of competition for places. Hundreds of good players, because they had the money to be able to keep the guys sitting at the side. But the guys that were there for the longevity, the top kind of guys that lasted the time that were there, were all a very close-knit bunch. But it was probably our will to win or desire that made us kind of similar as a group. Brian McGinty, Stephen Swift, Sean Dillon, Big Dexy, we're all in this group chat and we all slaughter one another. And Kevin McDonald, he gets the absolute brunt of it. So he's the guy that, came a wee bit later on, and he talks about it now in comparison to, he's at Darvel just now, and he talks about how close-knit we were and how they're trying to emulate that and how they're trying to make that something that they bring in. So team spirit's obviously a very, very big thing, but the number one kind of overriding thing with us was we were all good players, but we were all competing with each other. And that was hard. I was telling a story the other day, my wife kind of reminded me, it was one of the things that came up in Time Hop. My mate, it was his 10th wedding anniversary, and I remember the wedding. I didn't make the wedding because I went to the game. I went to my game. I was supposed to be an usher, and my dad, obviously being the manager, we were playing Port in the quarterfinals of the Scottish. I get patched completely. Boom, no even the bench. And he didn't tell me to be an usher at my best mate's wedding. So I came with the suit to come to the wedding with the Meadow shirt and tie on, and I walked, and I'm thinking, well, he would have told me. He knew I had an important wedding. He would have told me if I wasn't playing. I'm thinking I'm starting. Team gets read out, and you're going, absolute prick, by the way. You're knowing the 16. I'm going, can't believe it.
See, hang on, I bet you did that cause like a bit of awkwardness? Because
I would have took the cream puff about that. Definitely, there's no doubt about that. I would wait. Well, fortunately, I was probably moved at the house at the time and staying with my wife. If I had been staying with my dad or that, it would have been very awkward at the dinner table. Let's just say. But
I came to watch that Meadow side a few times because I was pals with Gaz McPhee. Was playing fees at the time and all.
Aye, Gaz was a great player.
Do you know how you would get a bum deal more off the crowd than your own players because your dad was a manager?
Definitely. I used to get that quite a lot in terms of if you played well, nobody said anything to you. If you played poorly, you got stick. Whereas if somebody played well, they would get the praise or the pat in the back. That never ever happened to me. And by the way, I knew what I was getting into. What I was talking about there with the boys, that bunch of Meadow boys, everybody was resilient. They all had strength of character. Same with what I was talking about with that good Buffs team. They were all men. They could all handle themselves. They could all handle stick. See, nowadays, I just think you have to watch your P's and Q's at times with people, and it's just a different generation that we're in now. Like, times have moved on, and you have to be very careful with feelings, as they say. But I think the feeling that we miss is resilience. Like, that's something that you learned and you grew up taking stick to the punters.
See, as you're saying there, Chris, it's mad, and Cashy could back this one up. And we're not sitting here talking about 20, 30 years ago. We're literally talking 12 years ago, how much it's changed in the dressing room, because we've sat and spoken about this quite a few times, where how you do kind of need to watch what you say a wee bit more, and players aren't quite the same for taking things in the chin and all that. So it's mad how quick football's changed in that space of time for you actually playing and being relatively young in the management game. Do you know what I mean?
Aye. I took up the management quite. I was 33, just turning 34 when I went into the management with Colin, and then I didn't mind what I said. I said things as if I was a player.
Aye.
You had the same camaraderie with guys. You knew what it was about. Now, as you get older, and you're more concerned about what's happening away from the park, and that's just because you learn about the welfare of the players and stuff like that. And I think that is important. It's very difficult to not have affection for the boys who are putting things in for you. It's very difficult to remain robotic with them and just kind of have a distance between you. I think you grow and you become affectionate with them, and you're keen to help them out as human beings as well. But the flip side, I think I've got the relationship with the players that I can still tell them if they're not doing the business. I can still tell them, I can still give them that verbal volley if they need it. And they know it's not meant in a personal sense. They know it's not meant to hurt them, hurt their feelings or anything like that. But it's, how do I say this? It's probably when you look at externally, you think if you see somebody shouting at somebody down the park, or the kids are playing and things like that, and you go, well, that guy maybe shouldn't be shouting at the kids that way. Guy shouted at us that way, you just go, mate, you know what I mean? It's just, it's a different walk of life now. I think everybody becomes permanently offended at what people say, rather than, you know what, if it affects you, deal with it. If it doesn't affect you, don't worry about it and put it to the side. And I don't think we get enough of that, man.
Well, see, you're talking about playing at Meadow, because obviously, particularly for 10, 15 years ago, a lot of money was spent in that team. Like Gav Friels and that going for like $7 or $8 grand.
Yeah.
The Talbot stuff. I actually think I was meant to be his replacement at Talbot, and I lasted a month, and he got so at the moment, I was fish, man.
I was 2 months. I lasted 2 months longer than you.
You lasted a couple months longer than me. But see, in terms of how the team were, obviously big characters in that, and you had guys dropping down for senior, similar to what Mick Kennedy will face at Darvel now. How was it with dealing with characters? I don't want to go into your dad too much because we're here to talk about you, but how was your dad in terms of dealing with the characters and the coaching staff, just to basically keep everybody happy and playing as much as possible to win things?
I spoke to me, Swifty and Kev McDonald, Brian McGinty, we were talking about it the other day. We had a conversation about it. He actually let us manage the dressing room a lot. You know, the thing for him was he didn't need to come in and hit you with the big stick. The carrot for you was to remain in the team, and the team was successful. So he didn't need to rule with an iron fist or anything like that. He made sure that we kept our discipline, but we had a real, just to say, strength of character. See, if we had a bad game and we didn't win, it was a crisis. It was a proper crisis. There was dust-ups galore in that dressing room. I can tell you about naked fights and all sorts. It was top.
I want to hear about it.
I'll tell you about the naked fight because it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life, because I ended up holding somebody back naked with them pinned and the twos were naked. But the story was, we played Auchinleck in the Scottish Cup quarter-final at Meadow Park, and it was one each, and the Talbot got a contentious penalty. Big Michael Wardle parried a shot up there. Should have saved it, by the way. If he ever watches this, he definitely should have saved it. But he parried it up there, and it was on the deck, and the two players ran in to head the ball. One was Kevin McDonald, he tried to head it away, and the other was David Gillis. And when he went up for it, David Gillis has shoved Kev, and Kev punched the ball. Penalty. But Kev is adamant to this day that it was David Gillis that punched the ball, wasn't it him? Mm-hmm. So at the time we were upset. That put us at the cup. We came in the dressing room, but we hadn't played well. The Talbot deserved to win on the day, but there was still that bone of contention that you hadn't played well and you had been put out by, a decision that you felt had went against you. So long story short was, Swifty came in spitting feathers and he was shouting, "It's a joke, it's this, that's the next thing." Big Michael Wardrobe. We were getting changed at the time. My dad had done his debrief. Well, lads, we didn't play well enough. We're out the cup. You need to go and admit. So after that, it was about a to and fro in between the boys, and Swifty, "It's a joke, the referees cost us, blah, blah, blah." And Big Mick was putting his slips in the bin, as it was, in the baskets, and well, I had to Swifty, "Shut up, Swifty, we were pish, we get beat, shut up." And Swifty went, "That's not the point, Mick. The point was we could have went up there and won in the replay. We went up there last month. The referees cost us." And Mick just went like, "Shut your pick," or something like that outside his mouth. Now Swifty's a wuss, by the way. I don't know whatever came out of him. Mick's the hardest guy, or one of the hardest guys in the dressing room. Total psycho as well. Goalkeeper off his head. Just turned around to him, slapped him with an open hand. Like, slapped him with a... You hear the slap noise, and you've got like, oh dear, too much Big Mick's trying to grab him. Now, if Mick got a hold of Swifty, he'd have killed him. Swifty doesn't say that to this day, but he would have killed him. And then it's the usual, everybody's in between. But the thing is, we're all bollock naked. So, the mate, and I mean, Meadow had a big communal bath at the time, and that you were in the bath, we were absolutely all stunning naked, wrestling with one another. And I've ended up, the way we fell, I've ended up on top of Mick. and Mick's his leg there with me, kind of across there, and I'm here holding him down, and Mick's like, let me up, Strainy, I'm going to kill him, let me up. And there's 3 or 4 boys kind of holding Mick, and we actually had to hold him till we got to the stage where we're like, right, Mick, come on, calm down now, calm down. He's like, right, I'm calm, I'm going to touch. But it was too long for 2 humans to be in a dressing room naked with your face in somebody's groin. It just was no good.
It's always the goalies. I've had a few of them myself, but I was always delighted. Centre half used to always grab me, and I used to go, see if they want me holding me back and all that. But I was always fucking delighted.
Never seen a normal goalie.
No, definitely not. Cash, you know what I mean?
See, obviously, you had a really successful side. He's won a lot of trophies. The Scottish was the one that eluded you, and I'd imagine, because obviously we all know what it's like having played juniors for a while, the Scottish is the one that everybody wants to win. It's the most important. How did that feel, knowing that he's never got it? Because obviously you're still in a group chat with the boys and that. How's that feel for you? Is it something you still talk about?
Aye, definitely. Kevin McDonald brings it up every day because he went to Beath and won the thing. But do you know what? The league had changed at that time, right? And I'm no down crying what you're saying. The Scottish was the be-all and end-all because of the glamour that it brought to the game. But the league had changed because you got to go to the Scottish Cup by winning the league as well. Aye. So the league became really, really important. And it was the Super League kind of emerged just at the time where we were just in, and it was a new thing. But the league became really, really important because of that Scottish Cup place. So we were fortunate to win that. And as they say, they're like the best teams win the league. I mean, you could go through a cup and 5 or 6 teams, you draw donkeys, and you can get there by hook or by crook. What I would say to that, and the caveat to that, was Auchinleck and us were both kind of rivals at the time in terms of the success that we had. They were winning the Scottish, we were winning the league. If you'd offered me a chance to swap what we did and what they did, I wouldn't swap it, but I would definitely love to be sitting here with a medal just now. You know, a Scottish Cup, having that day and that occasion. It got to a stage we reached 4 quarter-finals in a row, a semi-final, then 4 quarter-finals in a row, and we should have won at least 2, maybe 3 of them. But you can dress it up any way you want. It got to become the monkey on my back. We bottled it. You can dress it up any which way you want. It was the one that the fans wanted because Meadow hadn't won it since 1974. And they had invested in it to try and win that. It became a noose round their neck, you know, something that you needed to win. And that was, it wasn't a good environment. We were going out to play. I can remember playing Bonnierig at home, and the squad was that wee bit older, and we played them, and they beat us, I think, 2-1. We still won that. We drew at home to Largs, and Largs beat us in a replay up there in the quarters. Pollock beat us. So games where we should have, and Auchinleck beat us, we should have won. We should have won a couple of them anyway. And if we'd have got to 2-legged semi-finals, I think we had the quality to come out on top. But that one-off Scottish Cup thing just eluded us. But you can dress it up any way you want. We should have won the cup, and it rankles with all the boys to this day that we didn't do that.
I think it's something like, obviously you say the best team wins the league. That's almost without fail, that's the way it is. Talbot seem to have this mentality where people are afraid of them, obviously, in the Scottish, and they have it because they've won it so many times and keep going. You mentioned Pollock there. When I started playing juniors, Pollock were the team that were winning kind of the league most years, and they were kind of the dominant force before yourselves and the Talbot really came back into it. And that's something that eluded them as well. They could never win the Scottish day, no matter how hard they tried. They couldn't do it. But knockout football is a bit different, I suppose, for the league.
See, for me, right, I don't know, I think Cassie and Strain might agree with me here. See, in this new setup, right, I know it's still kind of on topic, but I think you take now with the carrot that where you could end up, you would take winning the league 100% more than the Scottish, whatever the big competition is next season now, with the chance to get into the league, so to say, Lowland League and stuff.
The pyramid's open things right up for everybody. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you, in terms of the Scottish Cup, it's just what you say, it was the pinnacle at that point in time. It was the cherry on the top of the cake as such, and you wanted to go and win it. It lost its razzmatazz a wee bit when these teams went. It definitely did. And I think one of the best times that I enjoyed, even in all my football, and it wasn't playing, was the time that we got to the semi-final with the Buffs. We got promotion that season, we got to semi-final, and that's 5 years ago now that we did that, and it was great. The town came out, the people came out. One of the things I said when I took over, I remember saying I would love to be the manager in front of a full-packed Abbey Park like the old Scottish Cups, because it is Scottish Cup, going in as a Scottish Cup team, the team, the supporters come out and support the team en masse for the Scottish Cup. So we've lost a wee bit of that with the tournament, vacating. I'd love to see a nationwide non-league cup brought into the fray. I think that would enhance the game at our level. They've got it down south with the FA Trophy as such. I think if you added in the Lowland League, Highland League in the west of Scotland, east of Scotland, you could have the best, cup competition in Scotland because of the amount of teams that could go and win that trophy, and it would become something. So I agree with you that, the league is an important thing to progress your club, but supporters love that, day out away to go and play somebody through in the east or come up north, or the bus journeys, all that goes with that. And that's the thing that we probably miss at this moment in time. I think we'll get it with the South Challenge Cup as that tournament evolves, but I think again it would be great if you could do something, maybe the initial stages it becomes regionalised and then you open it up into a nationwide non-league cup would be really good.
Well, one more thing just before we move on, because I forgot Cashy's here, so we'll talk to him in a minute.
Oh, you're fine. I enjoy listening to it. It's just talking with the gaffer, you're talking about the Meadow. But it was the semi-final. Remember Gareth Turner scored early, and then it was and he gets sent off for something which was pure. It was not. Well, I don't know. For me, I don't know, because I was pal with Gareth. I don't know if it was a red or no, but it was soft, wasn't it?
Aye, you can caught the guy with a flailing arm and he gets sent off. It was at Firhill. And Bathgate won that game 2-1. I think they won the final against Largs at Rugby Park. Again, if Meadow had won that, it's all I've spots and maybes, but if they'd won that game, which they were the better team in the game, if they won that game and won the Scottish that year, we were in the bottom division, that Meadow team at that time. If they'd won that, it would have got the monkey off the back in terms of, that pressure to win the cup, and it might have went on and had a couple of years, but it wasn't to be, and it's not something. I mean, I don't sit back. I keep saying to Kev, there's a lot of donkeys win the Scottish Cup as well. I know. That's what I keep reminding him.
I always say that. Like, I could have sat and been a third choice goalie at a Talbot or something and had a medal, but I'm a fucking donkey and goal. You know what I mean? But it's just what you want to do. You want to go and play, and I totally agree with that, Strain. Honestly, the amount of people couldn't release people's boots that are sitting with winners' medals, unbelievable.
We'll talk about the big Scottish then, the senior Scottish, because the Meadow, having won the league, were the first ever junior team to beat a league side when he's beat Arbroath, is that right?
Yeah.
Were you part of the team that played Hibs at Easter Road as well?
Yes, I played in both those games.
How were they two games?
Brilliant. The Arbroath game was probably one of the best team performances I've been part of. It was a wee one where we fancied ourselves on the day, but we were kind of wrote off because they were what you would call, I think they were a League One team at the time. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, I forget what it was called, it was probably just normal second division back then. But we fancied our chances that day. And the way we shaped up, we changed. We played a back four usually, but we played a back three that day. And we battered them, absolutely battered them. It was 1-0 it finished, but it could have been 6 or 7. Their goalie was outstanding on the day. I don't actually remember who was in goals, but it was one of the ones, just see what you were saying earlier on about the big characters and all that. We had all played at that level. We weren't in awe of anybody. We were like, you know what, I've played against him, we can take them comfortably. And we just hit top gear that day. And then, unfortunately for us, there was probably 10 weeks between that there was absolutely no football played. It was one of the deep freezes that happened. And I can remember we couldn't train or anything. We were getting indoors to games halls and stuff like that, and then we had drew Hibs. So there was a big build up to that, but we hadn't played a league game for 9 weeks going into the Hibs game. And the round was straight after Christmas. So a few of the boys had a few jollies at Christmas and missed a couple of training sessions and stuff like that. So when there was a few players that didn't play that day that would have played had they trapped, but they had went on what you call a New Year bender. And we were training down the beach and stuff like that because we couldn't get facilities to train. It was bone hard and it was tough training. You know, it was just run the lungs off you because you're playing against a Premier League team. We need to make sure that we're as best physically prepared as we can be. and with the boys missing the sessions, they get the old. So we went to play Hibs. Hibs couldn't have been better with us. There was 12,000 at the game. It was the biggest crowd out with the Old Firm on the way to the final. When we played Hibs that day, they were sitting third in the league.
Aye.
And when we went out there, it was the usual one. We did. I don't think we felt nervous. See, back to again the characters. I remember standing in the dugout, the tunnel. And the tunnel's quite wide at Easter Road, and John Hughes came out before the Hibs boys came out, and he's standing talking away to us in the tunnel. Hey, oh laddies, what's happening here? They'll not like these strips about here, lads, because obviously the Meadow's the red, white and blue with the black and red socks. So it was like a Rangers strip, and he was getting it. They'll not like that strip about here. You're in for it today and all that. And they're like, don't worry about it, Yogi. Off of us are Tim's anyway. We were laughing a joke with him, and he's laughing away. And I can always remember when the Hibs boys come out, you're standing and you're looking and going, they're big. You know, we weren't a small side, but you're going, you're a big unit. And there wasn't any trepidation amongst it, because we'd nothing to lose. You know, it was that one, let's just go out and play and see what happens here. And we went out and we absolutely battered them for half an hour. And I'm not joking when I say battered them. We were all of them at the post. Stonewall penalty denied. Richie Barr got booked for diving, and it was never a dive. If that had happened up the other end, they gave the penalty. And we had something like 4,000 through us. I can remember I had like my whole family. They had a full row, and all my pals come through and made a day of it. And it was a great day. We didn't get the breaks on the day, and they scored 2 goals just bang bang before half time. That kind of killed us, and it killed any momentum we had. But we gave them a right fright, because I can remember Yogi waiting in the tunnel. It was the boy Paul Hanlon was playing against me. He was waiting on him coming in, because he'd made a couple of howlers just before half time, and he was waiting on him coming in, and he's hit my boot up the arse going up the tunnel, you know. And I'm thinking, oh, brilliant.
You just imagine with you saying that, Chris, about that. I'm looking at Brora Rangers the other night, and they were saying they only trained 5 times and played 1 friendly, which, by the sounds of it, they go to the Robsy the Green the other night, and you maybe just didn't get it that day. But imagine Robbie Nielsen in that dressing room after that game the other night.
I actually was dumbfounded with the result the other night. I was sitting and I looked, and I had to check twice. I thought it was a banner. But fair play to the boys. I mean, you don't beat a full-time team when you're not well drilled, or you're not, prepped in terms of your game preparation. They would have had to work really hard. And as you say, to train 5 times between now and Christmas and go and win that game, and as far as I'm concerned, that's the biggest shot in Scottish football history, bar none.
So you look at that, obviously the other night, those people who don't know anything about, I don't know a great deal about the Highland League and the Lowland League, but I know enough, and I know certain players that play at that level. People don't realise the quality you have at the West of Scotland, the Lowland, the Highland League. I mean, you see it like yous.
Yeah, PG.
What you saying?
PG, mate. See, Cashy, mate. Brora is the only team that he's not played for. I was checking his CV, mate. Sorry,
that's so far away.
Cashy's got the longest Wikipedia page in world history.
I'm going to go and I'm going to mess about. But I did it.
See the thing, you would think I was a bad egg, wouldn't you?
I'll do it to yours, I know. No,
you're one of the good ones. You always wanted the club cash. I'll go the other way, mate. You know what I mean?
Just to go back on it, see, like you're talking about getting beat 3.5 Hibs, who were the 3rd best team in the country at the time, is absolutely no shame, even if you didn't have that spell against them. We said you were the better side. You look at the Talbot against Hearts when they get robbed of that offside goal last minute. Brora beating Hearts. People don't realise how good a level it is. Obviously, it's easier in terms of a big game to get your team up for it, because you know that you might not get another opportunity. So boys get fired up, and the other team aren't quite at the level they normally are. But it does show that the quality that's there. But we're going to move away and talk to Cashy now. So I called you this when we were texting earlier. I called you the slag of East Ayrshire because you'd played with the Talbot, Cumnock and Glenafton. You must be the only person that's done that.
No, there was a boy that was up front that's done that. He was at Glenafton. I think he played with them all.
That's you, mate.
No, you know what I mean?
You look at your own page.
No, I went to Talbot, and I went there for Stranraer. It just didn't work out. I knew straight away, like, you've kind of maybe made the wrong move. So it was, and like Tommy, obviously I knew Tommy Sloan. And listen, they were, again, they've been the top team, Ken, for years, one of the top teams anyway. And it never worked out. And then all of a sudden, I remember that I came here for work one day and Campbell Money was in my house. and he was at Cumnock, and then he's like, they've accepted an offer for you. So I went there.
I'll tell you the story about how I left the Talbot. I had been at Meadow before, and it was probably the best spell I'd ever had at juniors. I was at 19 or something, and we had played Ardere in the Scottish, and I'm no lying, it's the best game of football I've ever had in my life. I ripped them apart. The Talbot had been doing watching us because we were getting them in the next round. We played the Talbot and they beat us 6-1, and I had a cracking game. So I ended up signing or going to them at the same time you were there. And I remember being in work, and I got a phone call for Tucker, for Alan McTuck. So I'm like, hello, and he's like, would like you to come to Cowan, and I'm like, no, I appreciate the offer and that, but no, I'm at the Talbot and that. He's like, right, well, we'll maybe talk later. So I hung up and I phoned Tucker, and I went, Tucker, I've just had Cowan on the phone, and he went, you should probably go there then. I was like, man, didn't even tell me himself that he wasn't going to keep his own. He just went, that'd be a good move. You should probably go there. I was like, cheers, Tucker. But back on to yourself at your time at the Talbot, how did you find it with a few months you were there?
I'll be honest, I vaguely remember it, to be honest. I've never been that's what I'm saying. You see, you've all 8 teams, and like you think that you were maybe like a bad egg in the dressing room or that, but it's I don't know. It's so strange. See what I think it was. I don't think I worked hard enough to get into their team, as in just in general, because like the work rate and whatever, it's a kind of thing you learn now, like you're kind of buy and whatever. You think, see now when you look at it, we've won like Brian Boylan, we've got Davy Ramsey, the new bit they like Gaff, they like they work and work and work and work. Do you know what I mean? I just probably didn't have that. Because before when I even went to air, when I was at the Buffs, I had like good guys I played up front with and stuff, so they kind of took all the batons. I was just lucky enough just to be the right place at the right time and kind of put them in penalty box inwards over. But
well, see what you're saying.
Do you think it helped, Cashy? PG, sorry. Do you think it helped, Cashy, that more teams back in your prime played 4-4-2 rather than all this 4-5-1s and all that? Do you think your style of play is better suited to back then we would have been now with all the different formations?
See back then,
are like wingers and that.
I've said it before. Back when I played at the Bucks the year we won the league, I was up front. Well, there was a few strikers there, but with Gareth Armstrong, Boy's nickname is now. He was like different class for me. Like he would just see if you're struggling, route one, never lost much in the air. So honestly, the amount of goals I got off his flick-ons, but you don't see that now. Because they're trying to play football the way everybody wants to see good football in it. Because I think back then it was more kind of long ball it's more long ball back then than it is now. Unless you're obviously one down with a couple of minutes, 10 minutes to go or whatever.
Right. Well, I can't remember if I've told this story on here or if I've just spoken about it. Let's see, you're talking about with the work ethic at the Talbot. I remember it's actually down at Cowan where you was playing now. We trained there pre-season, and me and Gary Phillips was in the team. So I'm mates with Gary. I've been mates with Gary for a long time. And me and him went in for a 50-50. And I was never the bravest of types to go in and smash somebody, even if I wasn't their mate. And me and Gary went in, both of us kind of half-heartedly went in for the ball. And Tucker stopped training and absolutely destroyed me. Went through me, fucking screaming and shouting all that, because he's like, fucking smash him. And I'm like, it's my mate. I don't really want to smash my mate at training. But that was the mentality that he instilled in that team, and I think that's part of the reason they've been so successful, because there's been better football sides than the Talbot, but they're just so fucking well done.
See for me, PG on that, but you would be surprised how many training sessions you would go down to now, and you would still see that wee jagging. I've seen it a few wee nifty and a few wee dirty ones that even in the national training session, and I'm sure we were on before Straining that they were training and we were on after them at a game doing it Belfast or something. I've seen bites in all these training sessions. I think there's a lot more than what you would probably expect that even other clubs.
You have to train the way you play. I mean, you're talking about Auckland like that. I'm good pals with Alan McCluskey, and I speak to him regularly. And one of the things that they've done over the years is they've kept a continuity of style. So you talked about their Cashy about long ball. People criticise their style. I think that's very unfair, because they're a better footballing team than you give them credit for in terms of how they move the ball. But they're direct. They don't want to give the ball away in daft areas. They don't make mistakes that cost you goals. They've got experienced players. And what Tam and Alan have done is they bed people in. So if you come into their team, you have to be better. Let's say you're signing for them. When you come in, just as you two experienced, there's a group of players there who have been successful for a period of time. And unless you are better or doing better than they guys, he's going to pick them in front of you. Right. And that's what creates a continuity of success. It creates internal competition. It creates drive. And we're all striving to get to that level where you win the tournaments, you win the cups, you win the league, that people then sit up and take notice of you and they want to come to you and you go, right, okay, I'll bring you in. But you have to be better than the guy that's in your position. And I'm saying that now to the boys that are coming through youth team-wise. We've got a good crop of young boys that are coming through on the back of our players. And I just say to them every time, come to our games, come and watch your games when obviously they were allowed to. Come and watch your games. And if you think you're better than the guy that's playing in your position, then you'll progress. If you're not going to be better than him, you're not going to get a game. So you have to do the things that these guys are doing, train harder. Things have changed in the game as we spoke about. I mean, it's nutrition, it's the gym, boys are athletes, and it just puts its way further down the chain. When we're trying to, I sat last month and I wrote a report on the club and where I think it can go over the next 3 or 4 years, and it was an assessment on what we're doing now and what we need to do to get better. And all you do is you look at the top clubs and you say, what are they doing, and try and emulate them and do it better. And that's that's happened all the way through football. It used to be you went out for a pint on a Friday night before the game. Never me, because that was a good pro. But in my dad's era, that's what they did. They come in for the work, go for a couple of pints, early night, play. Then it became, you couldn't go out. And it was a Saturday night maybe. The amount of people now that play football that are absolutely teetotal would blow your mind. You know, the boys don't drink or anything nowadays because they know it's detrimental to them. And that just filters its way down all the way. It makes for a boring night out, right enough, if you're going out with the boys. But it tends to be now that you're creating athletes and people who have got a drive and a desire to do the best for themselves. And that's just what Cashy spoke about there. That's what I try and drill into the boys. It's not until you're by and you're sitting there like eyes and going, coulda, woulda, shoulda. You know, only what if I went to the gym when I was 17 and built myself right up? You know, what if I did eat the right things at the right times rather than grabbing something for the garage on the way to the game? That's the type of things that you're trying to say to your boys. What if you actually just made yourself that wee bit better? How much an effect would it have on your playing career and your enjoyment of football?
No. I think you're definitely...
It's hard to be in Cashy because we sit and say in our dressing room, and we're not going to lie, we sit and say, like, let's try and say to our boys, let's try and aspire to be a Talbot, a Kilwinning Rangers, a Darvel. Let's try and do the things they're doing. We might not have, like, some of the facilities or some of the maybe money behind us to do what they can do, but let's try and put a wee bit of professionalism. And to be honest with you, sometimes you get the daft looks, don't you, as if like, you're barking mad, and you know what I mean, you're barking mad. But I suppose that's down to us to try and get the right type of characters that are going to buy into that as well, innit?
That's the number one thing. Cash will tell you, we did a Zoom call this year. I mean, who ever thought in your life you would have done a tactical Zoom call? Because we were going to play in a cup game, and I thought, you know what? We can't train the night before it. We've got a game. Let's sit and go through tactics. So just what you say. Give them all the tools. Be as professional as you can be, and then you can make demands of them. And you beat in the cup game, so that Zoom get binned. But the reality of the situation is you're just trying to be better, and you're trying to give them the environment. The number one thing I did when I went into Kilwinning was I worked hard to get a kit man. My wife used to.
I'll tell you what, Strain, I'll stop you because we're going to come on to Kilwinning, and I don't want you to give all the stuff away too early.
Get rattled into Cashy because you've got another 25 clubs.
Aye, we've not got long enough, man. Just like you said, you're talking there about kind of training the way you played. So at my time at coming up in the Talbot, I trained the way I played. I sat out of training for about most of the night and then came in for the last 10 minutes. But Cashy,
the shooting.
I was just full of carry on from start to finish every training session that I went to, man, and that's why I was fucking shite.
Hey, see that always with the gaffer. See every time at training and that, like somebody gaffer wouldn't even be looking right, and somebody would like hit a shot at the goal or somebody kick the ball and they would turn around and just be Cashy. Remember that wasn't even me. I just seem to get it all the time.
See, like you're saying,
it always kept going wide, but mine's always went in.
No, that was Tiz that was shooting when it went wide. You knew it was always Tiz when it went wide. But you're saying you've left the Talbot, you've went to Campbell Money was in charge. How was that going from one straight to the other?
It didn't bother me because I never played at Auchinleck. So I remember, it was my second game in we played Auchinleck, and it was funny because at the time G. Wilson was at Cumnock, and he'd scored, and it was one each well into injury time. And I remember Big Ricky Robb, big centre half. It's when our Ricky said, and that was me. I was in goal, and I took my touch in the box. He's just cleaned me out, and I was raging because you might have missed, but you'd have fancied yourself to score. And he messaged me last week talking about that game. So I was like, can you get the winner against your old club? But obviously, so we got the penalty and G. Wilson stuck it away. So it was obviously good to get the win. I don't know if that was the last time Cumnock's beat Auchinleck. I don't know.
I played against them 4 or 5 times, and I never ever played in a team that even get a draw. But how did you find your spell at Cumnock getting in? Obviously, they get relegated with Campbell Money, and then Faz tenure. How did you find a kind of contrast between the two of them? Because obviously, I can relate with Faz, but how was it compared to the two of them?
With Faz, it was different because obviously when I went to the Buffs, like Faz was there, and I had 2 good years with Faz, so I was kind of friendly with him as well. But to come in, it was difficult because at the time there was a lot of good teams in that league below. Mm-hmm. But what I loved becoming is we used to go to Durham every pre-season.
Oh, that was brilliant, wasn't it?
You that way, and like you'd the game on the Friday, then the game on the Saturday. But it was one of them, innit? Like Faz, right? They'd do it, they'd do it after the game.
That was the only.
Everybody sneaked back to the digs.
That was the only game I ever get cramped in my life. Was down at Durham because we all went out and bevied on the Friday, and I remember just dropping down and taking off. But do you know? Remember me and you were sitting on the bench, and the keeper kept coming off his line, and I was like, "This cunt keeps coming off his line," and I went on and I scored to the halfway line, and it was I meant to do a long diagonal to Gary McMenamin, and it bobbled just as I hit it, and I shelled it straight into the goal. I was like,
I wouldn't tell him that you meant to play a diagonal. You just say you see the goal. I noticed that, and I say it now, like the goalies are. I don't know about you, Dak, but goalies are off a line all the time.
Because it's all this sweeper keeper stuff in it, and they want to play high and make sure you're just basically playing like an extra sweeper in it.
Aye.
Basically, see, the thing is, Cashy, goalies, well, I know for myself, I wasn't good enough and fit enough to play outfield, but I always fancied myself in a player. I always wanted to join in the boxes and all that. So if I could play high, it means I could join in the play a wee bit more, do you know what I mean? Just couldn't get back right enough.
Right, Cashy. So what was it? Your 2 year at Cumnock, and then you've moved on after that. Did you go to Dorai after that?
Aye. No, I went to Girvan.
Girvan. Ah.
Aye, and it was Brian McClucky.
Brian McClucky.
What's that?
Aye. Obviously, you've went to that Dorai team. Were you part of the team that got to the semis of the Scottish?
No, I never went to Dorai till. That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
I went to Dorai after.
I know, mate. You just
see the thing is, you see, you're like that, Cashy. You won the Scottish with winning. Cashy's like, no. You go to the semi-final. You go to the semi-final with Dorai. No, he never. Poor Cashy's done fuck. What's happening here?
Mate, honestly, I think you should just.
I tell you what, I wish your stats were right.
I know. I've had a bad gene tonight. Honestly, I don't know what's going on with me. But
I'll tell you something about Cashy.
I went to Girvan, and it was Brian McClucky. But what a car we had! There was 5 years for Irvin. Doing it, Girvan, Kevin Bigger, man, like, Lee McRae, wee Bob Hay. And my big cousin Brado was there for a wee while as well. So we had a good car. Stuart Wilson, who's at the Buffs now as well. And we weren't that bothered about the football, but the bevy him was class. Just like them, you're not caring about the result. But I was only there 6 months, and then I went to Glenafton after that.
PG. Listen to this one, PG. See, Cashy, see if you need to know a stat about him, ask him, because he knows every one of his goals, his assists, everything. He tells you appearances after the bench, number of goals, he can tell you everything. It's a very, very funny one with wee Ben Lewis. Ben Lewis has played for us for, 11 years now, and Cashy always goes on. Cashy scored. How many goals he scored for the Buffs, Cashy?
108. Can I remember that? 108.
Cashy scored 108 goals for the Buffs, right? We Ben Lewis will have scored about 250, and Cashy's disgusted that he can't remember how many goals he scored for the Buffs.
I don't get that. Ben's a good pal of mine, and I keep saying that. And how many times, see if it wasn't for him, we'd have a Scottish Cup medal if it wasn't for Ben.
That right?
I care him every time. No. We bet. To be fair, what was it? It was an early doors we get the penalty, but I think we were 1-0 down. But I tell you what, the boy Grinley in goals has spread himself, and I was like, he's made the goals look like 5-a-side. And see the thing, see if he dives on the way, it's a great pen. But I was winding him up about that. It's all joking aside, but I don't understand how he doesn't know how many goals he scored. He's well, 200
Many
goals.
Many of you had in your career, Cashy.
Oh, I've not counted them.
Liar. He's a liar.
I swear to God. And see the thing, it's like...
Yeah, here's one, Cashy. Much signing on fees if you made all your moves, but...
By the way, Harley Eden, I owe them.
Oh,
mate, listen, see that first, when Strainy was saying there about, like, he caught, see when I went to the Buffs the first time, just after all them, like, they used to sit the wages on the injury bench or whatever, right? And honestly, mine was the only one that would have change in it. 20 quid a week I was on at the Buffs, they taxed me 20 quid.
Somebody used to
jiggling my boot and everybody else like that, man.
Somebody was shut score and yours would float away.
Else's 1 week. But no, listen, I know it's easy saying it. I played the Philip Buffs for nothing. You know what I mean? It's for me. That's what I'm saying. When I left, the second time I left, and George Grierson sold me, and then when he sold me, I was in like 96 goals or something. And then that's luckily enough, because I went to the Winton after Glenafton, and it was Derek Fry, but then it was Strain's dad and Joe McCall came in when I was at the Winton, and they were brilliant. Like, it's easy, like you can say like Strain's dad, like the stuff he's won and whatever, but he was good, and he was actually good for me as well, because I was twice.
He was the smartest manager I've ever seen when I watched him. He was always immaculate with a tin flute on, wasn't he?
I like these suits and that. They get bigger as the years went on. He ended up looking like Sam Allardyce. We used to slaughter him. We used to carry him behind his back. He's on that group chat that I'm talking about with the boys, and he gets it tight. He gets it absolutely stinking because he's dressed and things like that. Remember that big coat you used to have, Gaffer, where you used to look as if you had a shotgun down your jukes and all that?
You used to look like that, the trench coat and that.
Aye.
Well, Cashy, out of the 736 teams that you played with, what was the best side that you played with?
I don't know. Like, that team when we won my first year when we won the Super League, like as Strainy said, like I caught the tail end of them that won it all as well. Obviously, they were all a wee bit older. But see that it's weird. It's between that or the team we played in when we reached the semis, and it was weird because I was in and out. I wasn't starting all the time. I think my problem was that season. I was always no bad if I came off the bench. I would nick a goal. So folks say it's great to do that, but see, really you want to play, but at the same time you have to realize, like the guys are playing with Brian Boylan, Big Ross Stewart, Ben Lewis and all that. Like I think that you've said it before, Gaffer, like that season. I think everybody was 15 plus. Goals.
Well, you scored 15, Ross Stewart got 24, Brian Boylan got 23, and Ben Lewis got 22 goals. So that was your front four. And that was
firepower, isn't it?
Aye, that was good. And by the way, we had goals obviously for all the different areas of the park. I remember centre half chipped in with goals, but that competition, Cashy found it hard that year because when he was scoring goals, it didn't necessarily mean he was starting games. And that's why you left, and I thought you should have stayed another season, and he left because he wanted more regular game time. But the crux of the matter is that there was good players all around, but he was doing a job for the team. I remember we came on the quarterfinals of Scottish Cup, drew 3 each, and Cashy came on and scored the equaliser late on, and we went up there and beat him 4-1 in the next game, and you come on for 10 minutes, you know what I mean? But it was his part in, getting us there. He was an important team player, and we just had a good mix at that time.
I think that's something.
That's what.
No, sorry, I think that's something you're talking about earlier, Strainy, with how you view things differently as a player and a manager. Cashy, you're obviously thinking, oh, fuck, I'm only getting 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there. Whereas a manager will be thinking, oh, he's really important to us. I know he's not always going to start, but we know we can rely on him. Late in a game, if we need a goal, we can really rely on him. So you'd be thinking, I'm not that important a player because I don't start that often. But on the flip side, and you'll see it now, obviously, with being the coach, the coaching staff will be like, no, he's really important because he does something that nobody else really does for us, you know what I mean? So it's kind of...
Did you spit the dummy, Cashy?
Oh, Gil, he spat the dummy with me at Hurlford, right? Wait till you hear this one. He spat the dummy with me at Hurlford. I pulled him at Hurlford and I said, and I don't usually pull players when they're not playing. I do if they maybe feel it's unjust and you give them a heads up so they're not upset. But I pull Cashy, I says, by the way, Cashy, I feel you've got an important part to play in the game today, but you're not starting, blah, blah, blah. And he went, oh, it's always me. I'm always the one that doesn't get to start if it's something. I went, well, see if you don't like it, there's your bag, there's your bits. Head up the road. Well, he came on and he scored, and he gave it that, that one. I'm like that. I was like that, brilliant. I hope he's absolutely raging with me because he's just done exactly what I wanted him to do.
You're doing that case, trying to get his boots off and kicking the advertisement boards at the side.
It's weird. See you look back in that, because obviously you go down and see what's going on at the new park and whatever, and you're like, you wish you were 20 years younger. So see now, you would take anything for 10 minutes there again. Do you know what I mean? Aye. But I think that's probably the season I've enjoyed most, because even when we went nights out, it wasn't even 10 or 11. How many was there? Remember we went to Edinburgh and all that at Christmas and that? It was, and then the runs in the Scottish, like we beat a lot of good teams there who they were strongly fancied. And when Lithgow came down, who was it they played? They played somebody in the senior Scottish the week before, didn't they? And we hammered them 4-1. Was it 4-1? I think it was. Mm-hmm. And then just the whole buzz about the place. Then it was a perfect ending because we got promotion through the playoffs. And then the gaffer gets sacked.
We'll talk about that later on as well. But we'll talk about the move into management, Strainy. This is something I like to speak about because myself and Dak have spoke about this, and we've spoke about it with guests and stuff, because we've both managed even the amateur level, and we were quite young when we did it as well. Like, you were 33, I was 29 my first time managing. Dak, you must have been kind of similar age. And it's, how did you find it going from being a player into management kind of straight away? And was there things that you did as a player that kind of have affected the way that you manage because you thought, well, I didn't do that very well, or I didn't like how managers responded to me when I did this or whatever?
There's a lot of that. You hear people saying you take a wee bit for this guy and a wee bit for that guy. There were certain things that I liked. I felt that you should have freedom to speak your mind to players, be honest with them. You spoke there about maybe Tam no saying to you, do you know what, it's time for you to move on or whatever else. I think at that time for you as a player, you would have appreciated the honesty. Yeah. And I just feel it was very easy for me to morph into what I would like. So my number one thing as a manager wasn't, I'm going to be a manager. My number one thing was, how would the players like to be treated by a manager? And I felt that stood me in good stead, because when I went into the Buffs, they didn't like me particularly. I was a rival player for a period of time. They were thinking, oh, how's this guy going to be? And I remember going in and going, right, with Colin, the 2 years was, let's just give everybody a chance. We'll ask them how we want to play. We'll tell them, what we want. I remember the first night of training, I went to training and I looked at, there was boys turning up with Barcelona shorts and Celtic socks and Rangers socks, and I'm going, this isn't how Cohen and Rangers should be. We are a big club within the confines of junior football. We should be professional. So you then add that wee bit of professionalism, and the boys start to buy into that, and that was a big thing. But I remember we were talking, Cashy there said he won the league with Mark Shanks. I should have stayed at the Buffs. I had a big falling out with Mark. I had no long lost my mum. I lost my mum in the summer of 2002. I lost my mum. We were in fact, it was the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup. We played up at Camelin, and my mum, that was the last time she ever seen me play football. And we won the game 4-1 up at Camelin, and I had a cracking game, set up 2. Johnny McMillan scored 2. I scored 1 myself. And then in between the quarterfinal and the semi-final, she passed away. She was suffering with cancer for a long time, so she passed away. And the night before the semi-final was Friday night at Rugby Park. And the night before the semi-final, or the day before the semi-final, was my mum's funeral. And all the players came, and it was quite an emotional time for us. And we played the Talbot in the semi-final. We had beat them 5 times that season, and they beat us 4-1 in the semi-final. Alan McTurk gets sent off. And I remember the next season, Gary Falls left and Shanksy came in. And Shanksy was a lot more school teacher authoritative with his manner. And I cracked a joke first night in training when he came in. Shanksy was a hairy wee guy, and he was getting stripped to come in the shower, and I went like that. Well, Garth, you want to take your jumper off before you come in here? And he's immediately kind of went, and he's marked my card there and then, that one. And I'm thinking, well, this could be ropey. Well, anyway, I had been suspended for the end of the season. I got sent off up at Glenafton last game of the season, and I missed the first 3 games of the League Cup campaign, and I didn't get in the team. But when I did get in the team, there was a bit of, he put me in reluctantly. I wasn't his cup of tea. So we had a big falling out, but I didn't help myself at the time. I had a big falling out, and I just lost my mum. I just got married. Gemma, my wife at the time, had a miscarriage, and I remember going to the training session, and I wasn't myself, if you know what I mean. And I ended up, I kind of booted a ball and was unhappy. I probably wasn't playing or something like that. Someone wasn't happy. And he completely kind of shut me down. And I was 22 at the time, 22, just turned 23. And I could have done with an arm around me. I could have done with just, you know what, things only going well for the lad here. I appreciate what he's going through. I'll give him a wee, a wee punty up or whatever else just to get through that time. And he didn't. He went the opposite way with me. He clashed with me, and I felt just at the time he could have dealt with that better. And that always kind of resonates with me now. You never know what these boys are going through. You never know what's happening at home. If they're usually happy-go-lucky, enjoy their football, and they're coming to training and the world's against them, you need to find out why, what's on their mind, help them out. And that's where I'm talking about that emotional connection with people. You then have an affinity with them, and then come the Saturday, when you need to be honest and you can call them out and tell them, listen, you're not doing your job right, it's not good enough, I don't accept it, then they know that it's purely for a football reason. It's not because you don't like them, or it's not because they're your personalities clash or whatever else. So that, back to your original question, that how you morph as a player into a manager, I think is very important. But I think you take your experiences as a player and things that have happened to you maybe in an adverse scenario. That's what helps you, deal with those scenarios when you come up as a manager. Yeah,
I think that's a good point you've raised there. Where you've obviously went through that horrifically hard time. The manager's taking the time to speak to you and see how things are away from football. And that was something I would say, as being a really young manager, I wasn't very good at, because even though I knew the boys that I played with, because I'd played with them, managed and I'd played with them, I was very much, do what I'm telling you to do at football. If you want to speak to me after that, I'm always happy to help. But I didn't take the time to get to know people. And it's something that I've thought about myself, where if I go into management again, it's something I would look at. So it's quite good. Now, I imagine you have a good relationship with your players. And Cashy, maybe you could say on this as well, with the fact that as a gaffer, he takes the time to get to know the players away from the game. Is that something that you've noticed?
Aye. Yes, I'm not saying but see, as a player, if you've got anything to say, you can go and speak to him privately. He's good that way, and everything gets on. But there is that, because it's funny, see now, we joke about it, right at the start, you were dead fiery, on the touchline, but see, as you see him progress now, and much more calmer, and everybody just gets on, and if there's a problem, there's no issues with it. It's a phone or a text, or run it. He's just for a wee shot in the trampoline.
You're saying he was quite fierce. Now, Strainy, I've heard you talk before, and I actually got a book today after something you said. Now, it's a line for the book that maybe you'll know what I'm talking about, where it goes from furious to curious as you progress as a manager. Is that something that you felt like you've had to calm down? Because obviously, you probably know me. I played against you once as a player, and actually, it come up. Faz told me my job that day. Every time you get the ball, I was just to kick you. So basically, I spent 90 minutes kicking you, and it was the most I enjoyed the game, because I didn't have to do fuck all with the ball. I just ran about and kicked you when you got it. But you were quite an angry type player. Do you think that you've obviously taken that into management, Jink, as you've progressed and got a bit older, you've kind of been able to step back a wee touch for it and be a bit maybe a cool head?
I'm certainly not a cool head. That I wouldn't go that far. I'm conscious of how my behaviour makes other people behave, but I still think there's a place for passion. I still think there's a place for desire. If you look at the side of the park and you see nothing coming back when you need it, as a player when you need somebody to maybe give you that G up, or somebody to give you a verbal volley or whatever. I still think it's important to look to the side to somebody to help you out. And you look at top managers, there's still guys, if you stuck a video camera on Antonio Conte, Tuchel, these guys are animated at the side of the park. Mourinho's quite animated, probably not as much as what he was in his younger days as well. But I think what you learn is you can't win everything, you can't win every battle, every free kick with the referee, every tussle with a referee. You have to pick and choose your battles a wee bit more wisely. I think, again, referees is a contentious one because you go out with the best intentions. I know they've got a very difficult job, but there's some decisions that are absolutely mind-boggling that you just can't ignore. And for my part, it's all right me saying to the players, let me deal with it and don't. The more they hear me chipping away at a referee, subconsciously they think it's okay for them to do it. And I remember the game, particularly was a game we played, Scottish Cup quarter-final up at Largs. We get 3 men sent off, and it had been in the back of a season where we were butting heads in the dressing room, me and a few of the players and everything else. And I just thought to myself, do you know what? I need to have a sea change in how they view me, because the confrontation and the way I am is reflective of the team that's out there. So I think there's a place for passion. I think there's a place for desire and drive. I think it's got to be done properly. Sometimes we can overstep the mark, but it's not because you're consciously trying to, hold people over the coals. It's just part and parcel of the game. And as long as you can learn from it, become better. I think I have done. I don't think I'll ever be somebody who stands at the side of the park with your hands in your pockets a la Frank Lampard. I don't think that's in me, as you say, probably through my playing days. I think you thrive on confrontation at times. I think you thrive on getting one-upmanship in people. One thing that drives me insane, and it'll happen to me all the time now, I reveal, it's people in other teams claiming for folk to get booked. There's bookings in football all the time for nothing now. I mean, any coming together, folk are screaming for bookings and stuff like that. Let a referee the game. I'll say to a referee, if somebody's fouled somebody 6 or 7 times, go, how many fouls you letting this guy away with, ref, or something like that, if it's persistent. A game recently, in fact, it was one of the last games we played before lockdown, folk falling down it, every single member of the bench is shouting for it. I spend the next 10 minutes arguing with the guy in the bench, going, just let the referee the games. I'm all for, shouting at players and fouls and claiming for things, but when it comes to trying to get people booked and sent off, I don't think that's part and parcel of the game.
No, I definitely. How would they?
You'd never shout with the ref.
You were the world's worst, Cashy. It was embarrassing watching you. Telling you, see, when I re-signed him, Dak, this is the truth. When I re-signed him, we had a wee meeting in my house, and I'm like, Cashy, I promise you this now. See if you start, because I know he was a good player. He scored goals and but he'd got to the stage where he was actually a caricature of himself, because he just shouted for everything. The ref, the one's up, and the arm's gone, and the ref. He gets sent off about 6 times, and he never put a tackle in.
I know. It's diving in back chats. See, now it's embarrassing when you look back on it now, but it was, there was a time as well. What's that?
What you like in there as a coach? What's your kind of approach to things when the gaffer's done his bit?
I'm quite quiet the now, mate. It's kind of all new to me, and right. I was pleased that he brought me in. So it's a learning curve, and even the new, obviously we get cut short, but because that's one thing. It's all right if you're coaching the mains, but see when you're in, that's what I said to you in at the Buffs. It's top players you're coaching. Do you know what I mean? So because I was a bit nervous because I went through drills with the gaffer, and he would obviously tell us what to tweak them and stuff. Because it's all about learning, and it's changed now for when you used to get drills and it was just simple. But see, if you could do it even with the gaffer's training, the training is brilliant, and it's stuff like for me in the game for years never seen before. There is some stuff, but it's just a learning curve for me, and I'm just looking forward to start again to go to help out more than I was doing, because I kind of took the back seat just to try, because I was nervous. It was one of the things but all the boys are brilliant, and when you're talking, they're listening and stuff.
Wait to tell you this one about Cashy and his coaching. You hear this one, right? This is the truth. Cashy's first time coaching us is right. Why don't you take a shooting drill now? Cashy is, and he will only thank me for saying this, he's the most subconscious guy in the world. He fears what everybody will think about him. So he's like, do you think this will go well? Shows me shooting drill, and I'm like, perfect. maybe just move the balls a wee bit, create a wee bit of distance. That's perfect. Boys will love that when you go. I says, and make sure you're not nervous when you. I says, the best thing you can do is demo it. So he's like, right. So I see him at the corner of my eye watching him, and the boys like that. He goes, right, you come in there, you get a shot, take another touch, take a shot. I'll just demo this and run for it. Ball comes to him, he smashed it over the fence, out the park, gone, drill over. I'm like, both. That is the end of him.
Aye, done. That's how I like to be haunted. I like to be. We're quite fortunate that Maxie and Mera Ashfield likes to backseat and observe more and let us do the coaching. And if he feels as if he wants to add it or he sees something he doesn't like, he comes in. But I love even being in that dressing room. I prefer being in the dressing room about the boys. To listen out for, is anybody struggling or is somebody a wee bit quiet and all that. So I just love being in that dressing room all the time. I just kind of maybe thought you might be the same, Cashy, just in amongst the boys quite a lot.
Well, see, here, Cashy, sorry, before you come in there, just on Strain said, so I played with Cashy for a couple of years. He's literally, a great laugh in the dressing room, but a very self-conscious person where you don't have the confidence that you would expect. See, if you played against Cashy and you saw this boy holding the ball and turning, bang, goal, scoring for fun, and then gets in the dressing room, and it's very, you're quite timid at times when you don't appear that way on the park. Strain, you'd agree with me on that, wouldn't you? He's quite a timid person.
The thing is, he worries about what people think about him, and that's, listen, we're all different in how we react to that, but Cashy worries, he's a worrier. He's not a worrier when he's in the dressing room, as you say, having a laugh and a joke and whatever else. But if there's something that happens, he worries about what people will think and everything else. And
I get that, Cashy, because I'm quite like that myself. I like everybody to like me and everybody to think my drills are the bee's knees and all that. So I totally get that, you know what I mean?
That can be your driver as well, but that's something that can, be something that inspires you, because you go, I don't want to fail, therefore. But there's a point in time where you have to cut loose, and I keep saying to him, even as a coach or a player or whatever else, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks, it's how you portray yourself. You could be feeling the most nervous about something in the world, but if you portray yourself and you've got the body language or whatever else, then you can carry it off you. We always speak about Cash, he's not got a good record for penalty kicks. Likes to think he can hit a penalty, but he's missed a right good few. But that's the worry of standing on the ball and going like that. What if I miss this? Whereas, see if that's in an open play with Cashy and the ball lands in the penalty spot, 99 times out of 100 it's a goal.
Yep, definitely. Right, well, see, when you've come into the Buffs, you've obviously said boys have got like Barcelona shorts and Celtic socks and all that. How was the club at the time when you've taken there? Because when was it you took here? 14, 13 time, was it?
2013, 14. 2013, 14. 14 was when I went in February 2014.
So I'd been there at 2007, 2008, and they were in a bad way at that time financially. Like, we had nothing, basically. How did you find it getting in? Obviously, you wouldn't have known any better in terms of management, but how did you find it getting in and trying to bring the standards up? And obviously, you were in lower leagues at the time as well.
It was difficult, very difficult. I didn't realise how far the club had declined from not so much on the playing side, because they had promotions and relegations. They became a bit of a yo-yo team, bouncing a bit. And I knew what they could become in terms of the support. Colin Stewart was very big in that as well. Colin was like, it wouldn't take much to get everybody on side. And when once we do that, we can build. But I remember being in, and we get deducted 19 points for a registration offence. And the boy Robbie Weir came from America before I was there. And in the games he played, we get deducted all the points, which meant we get relegated. So we went from the middle league back down. And myself, Colin Stewart and Alan Mahood spent all summer. And when I say all summer, I mean like any spare minute of the day we had at Abbey Park, ripping down old things, new goals, slabs, moving this, moving porta cabins. I then enlisted the help of a few guys that I knew through business and different things that helped us rejig things that made everything more professional. And all of a sudden, it's a different feel to the place. And as I said, it didn't take much to get the support coming back. Remember my first game at Troon, I couldn't believe how few people were actually at the game. And then less than a season later, we had a big cup tie against Socky. The next season again, we had 1,500 against Linlithgow, as Cassie says, and getting to the semi-final. So it changed pretty quickly, but we knew the potential of the club. It's only now that we have got the plans that we've got and what we're doing now, do you see again that the club is going, and it's going to be the club it should be for a long period of time. It declined post Alan McCluck years, just what you're saying in 2008. I mean, it probably declined at a steady rate all the way down for them. And now it's on an even footing. It's not relying on any one person putting in money to prop it up. It's self-sufficient, which is everybody's goal. But we've worked really, really hard. And I mean, it's been 7 years toil at times to get, you know, the facilities. The training facilities were always there because KSC was as good as what it was. But the pitch itself, the dressing rooms, I mean, the dressing rooms were probably the same as when you were there. Your foot was falling through the flare and stuff like that. And
they shower rooms, man.
Oh, horrendous, weren't they?
A death trap.
I remember a team coming in the Scottish Cup and they came with the hampers and all that, and they had to be piled out outside, and it was pouring the rain. They couldn't come in their way changing rooms, and it was embarrassing for a club of that size. But what we did quickly is we grasped that the kids were the future for us, and the amount of kids that play at KSC, we just needed to get them in there, because Cassie and myself are both Faco in, and we realised that it's a Scottish Cup town. If you can get the kids there, and if you came to one of your games, I'm no joking, see at half time, it was like ants on the park. And that's what you did. The dads brought their kids and it developed for there. Now, I'm now talking, the kids would have been primary school age 7 years ago. They're now the kids that are coming to our games and spending the money that allows us to do what we do. So there was a plan in place for early doors to integrate the community and make sure that we came together, and now we're seeing the fruits of that labour. And it's not been a quick process. There's not been. I speak to Michael at Darvel quite a lot. Mick skipped 2 or 3 stages of that process because they've got the finances to be able to do it. We'll never be able to have those finances. We might further down the line as things progress and we become better. But the model off the pitch was done first. The facilities and the infrastructure was done first to allow us to get to where we've got to. And I can't ask any more of the players. I mean, I've had guys there, Tommy Maitland, Ben Lewis, Ricky Hanvey, they've been there for day dot with me, and Dave gave everything. They've sacrificed better deals. Cash will tell you when you come and speak to me, I'll go, look, you'll get more money elsewhere, I promise you. There's no question about that. But if you want to come here and enjoy as a professional environment as you'll find in non-league football, then this is the place for you.
Well, that's you're talking about having the kids and stuff like that. That's a long process, and we'll go back to the kind of madness of you being sacked. But ultimately, you've had the chance to be 7 years down the road, and you're seeing the fruits of your labour now. That's when Maxie was on in Riza a few weeks back, and something that Maxie said to me that quite impressed me, because Ashfield are they're not as good as they once were. They don't have a great fan base. They don't have great money. But Maxie's putting the plans in place to make sure that the kids start coming through. And I believe he wants to stay and he'll get the time to put it right. You could see in 10 years' time, if all goes well, that kind of planning he's put into place now and a year ago makes a huge difference down the road. And I'm in the process now with a club who are applying to join the West setup. And we think we've got a good shot. It's St Peter's for Paisley.
Yep.
And we've got a big community club. And basically myself and my mate Tagsy, who's going to be the manager, we have spoke about this where really we're going to be hammering it for the kids. Because it's not about, we're hoping to have a bit of money, but we're not going to spend it in the playing staff. Because you've seen it yourself too many times. We've all seen it. Clubs get money, pile it into players. They have 2 or 3 good years and then they just plummet going to free fall after it. So I think it's commendable to do that. But on the madness of being sacked, if they're getting promoted and getting to the semis of the Scottish, now I'm hoping, because I've made an absolute cunt of this tonight, we get around so many.
You'll do one right.
I've got to get a broken clock right twice a day. Archie was the reason for you having the fight with, was it John West and Barry Devlin? Because I know Archie's from my bit, I'm kind of pal of him and stuff. I know, cheers man. Finally got one right. So talk us through that, what happened with that?
We were in the semis of the Scottish, and Barry had came to me and said, look, we've got the money coming in for the Scottish, we've got and because of the Scottish run, we had at least 9-10 games still to play in the league. So we're thinking, look, we could do with boosting the squad. And when he came to me, he said, I want you to go and see if you can get yourself a player, go and sign somebody. I was like, great. So I'd watched Archie a few times, and what Archie could do was drop to the left and play, or play up top. And I just thought, do you know what? It would be good for us. Anybody coming into the team at that time, I didn't want to upset the apple cart. I didn't want somebody coming in who you brought in a name and it meant Ross Stewart or somebody dropped out, who were doing a great job for the team. So I was very conscious that whoever I brought in had to integrate, and I thought, you know what, Archie was doing well, he could cover a couple of positions, but he wouldn't command what you would say an automatic game right away. So when I mentioned Archie, I'd done the deal with Gav, I hadn't even got to speak to Archie yet, and then I brought it up to the guys and said, look, I'm going to sign the boy Archdeacon for Pilrai, and they went, nah, we don't see him as somebody who'll come in and make a difference to the team. And I said, well, I beg to differ, I'm the manager, and I think I've seen the boy, no, we're looking for somebody who'll come in and give us a boost, give the boys a big lift, a pick up. And I said, well, his performances will do that. If he scores the goals, comes in, I'm a wee bit short on the left-hand side. That's the position I've identified where I think he can play left, he can play up top. It means I can move maybe Brian Boylan or whatever. I had it in my head exactly, you know, that is what I wanted as a manager. And they said, nah, well, we're not going to give you the money for him. You've spent your money for the season. And I went, well, on one hand, you're telling me to bring in a player, and on the other hand, you're saying, I've not got any money to bring him in. What am I to do here? Am I to bring in Messi on a £5 a week? What's the kind of what's the parameters for this player you want to come in? And then he said, well, you bring in a player to me, and I'll see if we can stretch the coffers. So I thought, this isn't boding, this isn't sitting well with me. So I phoned Stranraer and I asked Mark Mealy if they had anybody on loan at Stranraer that was up. And there was a Dutch boy who just so happened he wasn't getting a game with Stranraer. He was on £150 a week. I hadn't seen him play, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to test the water here. So I went to Barry and John and I said, there's a boy on loan at Stranraer, I can get him on loan for Stranraer. Dutch, I can't even tell you the boy's name. It would be brilliant if I could, but I had no idea because I wasn't interested.
Vander Cashmore.
So anyway, let's say Vander Cashmore was available and we could have got him for £100 a week. I said, well, there's this boy Stranraer that's available for £100. Get him in. That's exactly what we need. And I thought, you know what? You're not picking and choosing who I'm signing and who I'm not signing. I'm not going through this. So I didn't sign anybody. And they were desperate for me at that point in time not to get promotion because it would have been justification for them to say, he blew it. The Scottish Cup, we were unlucky to win it and they were a good side. We then went and we won 6 or 7 games. We lost a game to Meadow in the midweek when I changed the team completely. Probably Cashy played. I probably started Cashy, that's how we get beat. But we went to Meadow. Maybole, it was a horrible night. We get beat 1-0, and then we played coming up on the Saturday. We beat coming up 5-0 on the Saturday, and it meant we get into the playoffs. But we were by far and away the best team. If we'd have won the game at Maybole, we'd have won the league. If we'd have drew the game at Maybole, we'd have been second. Because we get beaten Maybole, we finished third. I think I forget who it is. Cumnock and Largs that went up automatically. Anyway. The Friday night, the playoff game, big game for us, obviously. You know, you're good back-to-back promotions. And I arrived at the ground. I always arrived early. It's just what you're saying, just things that you're saying. I arrived 3 hours before kick-off because I watered the pitch. I like to have the pitch slick for us. We're a very quick attacking team, and it was a dry summer's night, and I wanted to get the hoses on the pitch and whatever else. So I arrived, and I got a phone call from my mate. He says, by the way, I met one of the guys in the committee up the town, his mate, and he said, you've been sacked. And I went, well, I don't know anything about it, so it's news to me. And then I went, I'll find out. But so I phoned my other mate who helped out with the hospitality and stuff like that. He didn't know anything about it. So I phoned one of the guys on the committee, and I gave him the old double bluff. I says, Gilly, I'm awfully disappointed that you've voted to sack me. And he went, oh, well, it was one of the things, you know. And I went, oh, well, that is true. So when Barry and that came to the game, I never let on to any of the players, I never let on to the coaching staff or anything like that. And we played the game and won the game, and I just went into the restroom after the game and said to the boys, by the way, lads, I've been sacked, but we've a good night and well done. And they couldn't believe it. They were dumbfounded by it because we had honestly brilliant season and we had a good camaraderie between us. But the way things transpired, the people in the club and the players and everybody else, they didn't rally around me. They just knew it was unjust what had happened, and they kind of made their feelings known. And there was rumours of a boardroom coup, and they were going to oust the board and everything. And then they all walked out en masse anyway, which wasn't what I wanted to. What I wasn't didn't want it to happen, but it's the way it transpired, and it was good. It was good for us. Scotland have equalised, lads, by the way. They were doing 1-0, but Big McKenna's just no, Grant Healy's just scored a header.
Oh, he's the worst, I know, Big Hanley.
That's it.
We'll take it. Right, so
yes,
you've stayed, or you've no me sacked, you've stayed and stuff. Then you've obviously had the issue. We'll not go into it too heavily because of time, but you've had the last season of the juniors, being top of the league, the Talbot being third and winning the league on the points per game kind of thing, which has obviously been a bone of contention because there's so many games left to play. That's disappointing. But then you move into this season, which is obviously finished. It's been a bit of a kind of damp squib, to be fair. But the club itself is looking like it's progressing well. Like, I follow the club on Twitter. You see the floodlights have went in recently. The new stand with 328 seats has went in. Like I said, I'd trained down there and stuff at the KSC, and it's a great big space. And I can imagine, I'm going to go into your story about the kit man here. I can imagine that's a big selling point for you because it looks like a big complex, like something that you would see at a Premier League side. Like I'm talking about the senior Premier League. Is that a good thing for you to draw players in? You're saying, look, we're getting licensed. We've got all this here. We've even got a kit man that does X, Y, and Z for you.
He is well. I think I know that the full community will be vying right behind it now because, as you say, it's the pride of the community in it, Colin Rangers, not meaning the club and that. So I think all that is well, and the following that he's going to get, I think it's building a right cracking picture for you.
The kids can see something now. Because we're there, because we're hand in hand, they can see the games on a Saturday and they go, well, I train here during the week. I want to play there. You know, I want that. It becomes a dream, and it's no sort. We all dream when we were younger boys are playing for your boyhood team, scoring the goal in the cup final or whatever else. But their boyhood team should be co-winning Rangers. It's on their doorstep. You know, it's something that's achievable for us to get to a standard. I always look at, talk about aspirations. I look at Dumbarton. Cohen's a similar population to Dumbarton. Dumbarton in the championship till last year. There is absolutely zero reason with the infrastructure that we have in place why we can't get to a championship or aspire to become a full-time team down the line. We have better facilities than Kilmarnock. We have better facilities than Hamilton, better facilities than Livingston. I've named 3 clubs with Astro. That wasn't intentional, but, you know, out with Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Hibs and Aberdeen, we have the best facilities of any team in Scotland in terms of training facilities. And that's, you've got a gym there, you've got our pitch, you've got a full AstroTurf, you've got a mini AstroTurf, you've got 6 outer pitches that you can rotate and train on, and grass pitches. We've got more outfield pitches than there is at Murray Park. So as things evolve and as things get better, then I can only see going in that direction. The issue that I'm going to have is the expectations will ramp up. And that, so be it, I have to take that on my shoulders. But there's still some very, very good clubs. You mentioned the west of Scotland. There's still Loch and Lech who'll be licensed. Cumnock are very much buying into their community projects. But you mentioned St Peters earlier, St Cadoc's, St Peters, teams who have got their community. Ashfield, that's why Max is doing what Max is doing at Ashfield. Max is emotionally invested in Ashfield. He's been there as a player. He knows the environment. He knows the kids that are round about there. They might be socially deprived to a certain degree where some of them are in our area, and football's a way out for them. It's not just about the result on a Saturday for me. It's about what we're building here as a community. And that's the thing that will ensure that we're not just a flash in the pan, that we'll go on an upward trajectory, whether it's me, whether it's Cashy might be the manager, hope no after seeing his shooting drills. He can't joke players. He's not got the heart for it. But no, in genuine terms, it doesn't matter who's at winning now. The infrastructure and what we've put in place over the last 7 years will mean that my wee kid who walked in at the start of this will have something to aspire to go and play in the next 7 years' time. So
it's very impressive. And like you said, I know what it's like down there. I know how big it is and stuff. And see, for kids for co-winning, you're getting to that stage, not just in co-winning, I suppose, you're getting across the board at the West because Clydebank are doing and stuff. You've got so many teams who are making Darvel as well, who are making big strides to try and make it as professional as possible. Wayne's grown up, we'll look at that now. Like, for us, growing up, junior was junior, and you wanted to play that if you couldn't play senior. But for kids now, you're getting to a stage where there's a pathway into the senior football. It's something to aspire to, and I think it's really impressive. And I think it's a good thing with the pyramid system. But Cash, you're Mr. Co-winning. I mean, you've been there. Somehow you've managed to have been there 2 or 3 times when you've played with every club in Scotland. But how do you view your periods? Because you were there at a very successful time, and then a no as successful time, and now the club's on the rise. What's your view about it?
As I've said, and I say it all the time, like the first time, I was lucky because I caught that at the tail end of a good team. The second time, we ended up winning the league, and then a year later, halfway through, the managers came in and says, the club's no money, the Wintons put in a bid for you, if you don't go, the club will fold. Some kind of, I was like that, well, and see, then I was in 96 goals, and I was like, I'm going to have to go here. So that one ended. It didn't end great, but it was always, listen, you would walk back to play with them. But again, getting that third spell again under straining that and managing to get to that milestone that I wanted, and just to be back, see, just back involved. It's like I always went to the pubs with my dad. My dad was good pals with Jim Fleeton, who's Strainy's father-in-law, because it was Jim McSherry who was the manager. So when Strainy was talking about the kids in the pitch, that used to be me, used to be him as well, on the park getting hunted off. Do you know what I mean? And it's weird now. That's how I feel as if I'm getting older now, and you're now seeing that. But there's a picture, and it's strange when you look back now. That night we get promoted, and it turns out the picture, all the kids, all the players, and then it's funny because I looked at it no long ago, and the gaffer was there, big smile on his face, knowing like he was at that time he was by. When that picture sums up Strainy's reign so far, the difference, because before that there was hardly any wins there, and the main focus is on that now. Let's see, we're talking about training, the facility. I know we keep going on about it. You used to train on a Monday and a Wednesday, and it would be pitch black, but you're still doing your running, still playing with the ball you can. The kids are so lucky now.
Well, that's something. See, obviously myself and Strainy have made the jokes about you being a bit self-conscious, and see, when I heard that you were in with winning, I honestly thought it was a masterstroke, because you're a club legend. I know you're fair area. I know what the club means to you, and see what the club are trying to do and what Strainy's trying to do in terms of building the community. There's nobody better for pushing it than you, because you have come through that. You're an original person who has done that, and it's easy for you to speak to Waynes and be excited about it, because you were one of the Waynes at one point. So I think it's been a massive, not just on terms of, I think having you in for football side, I think that you were a better player than maybe you thought you were, and you offer more than you think you maybe do at times. And I say that because I have known you for a long time. But you offer a lot in terms of coaching, and you offer a lot in terms of the community, which is a massive thing for a club. But we've kind of touched on it there. The last thing I want to talk about is, what do you see the future for the club?
If that's to him, he can give his own opinion on it. But for me, as a football club, we'll surpass a number of teams that are in the SPFL. I know that. I just know it. It might take 10 years, it might take 5, it might take 15, but winning at this point in time will always carry on in a forward trajectory. And because of the ambition of the club, it'll mean we'll get there. We'll play SPFL football, I guarantee it. And it will definitely happen in the next 15 years anyway. That we'll be a what you would call a solid SPFL club. And for us, what a carrot that is, you know, just what I was talking about the other day, I've had a relatively successful period as a manager, not in terms of trophies, but in terms of where we've taken the club and drove the club forward. It's about continuing that forward momentum. It's about harnessing everything that we've got to actually have tangible success. And tangible success for us will be winning this league and getting promotion, winning the Lowland League. They're all things that we speak about, and it's not because it's a pipe dream, it's because we think it's achievable. People will sit there and go, "I big up yourselves" or whatever else, but it's no false promises, it's not a false dawn. We've got the infrastructure, we've got the people behind it. There's so many people that, you know, our committee, there's a very small committee, but they're hard-working committee. There's maybe only 4 on the general committee, but we've got a team of volunteers, about 20. These guys on the committee are co-winning men, just like what Cassie was saying. Colin Evans, who's our commercial manager, brings in a lot of money. His dad was the manager of co-winning. He just recently passed away, John Evans. He's a very, very big character in the town, and they just want to see the best for the football club, and they know what it takes, and they will make sure it gets there. Colin Boyd, the chairman's very, very integral in that as well. So we've got good people behind us, we've got good infrastructure. The only thing we need now is a decent manager and some good players, and we'll go on.
Cassie will step up, don't worry about that.
Well, listen, that is one thing.
I think the thing is, sorry, Cassie, I think for me on the outside, I think you can see with the results that you are getting, and basically for the last season in the juniors into how it was kind of gone at the start of this season, that the playing squad's there as well, because he's getting results, he's sitting up near the top of the league and that, so
we're young, Dad. We're very young in terms of a group. We're very young, but that group, because of what we give them, we hope that they want to stay there. No for the money or anything else, for the accolades of seeing what we think can happen at the club, and that's to listen. See, in the summer we're going to go through a massive overhaul of how we do things to make it all better, and it's all for the growth of the club. But it's from a football side I'm interested in. I've done the hard yards in terms of lifting slabs and moving goals and, you know, trying to do that. Now for me it's about putting the fundamentals in place to make sure that we are competing time and time again with your Talbots, who are, you know, your traditional strong team within, your Pollocks, who have got the big support. We need to be challenging with them, and the only thing that allows you to do that, as you just spoke about there, Dad, is having a good squad of players, and we've got that. It's about building on them and making them better now.
That's it.
Just for me, for finishing up, it's going to seem like a pander to guests. I know a reasonable bit about this level, having played for quite a spell, and I always kept an eye on it even when I stopped playing at this level. We've had yourself on, we've had Moff and Gaz, we've had Mick Kennedy, we've had Tommy Malloy and Sean Dillon, and we've had Maxie and Rise on. And something that we all have in common. And what's that?
Mixed Day, I know we've had
Mixed Day. Sorry, I know it was only yesterday we released that episode, Mixed Day, but it's all guys who, I don't know if it's because it's similar ages to myself and Dak and that, but it's all young managers who, for me, have not really known other than one or two, have really impressed me with the way he's talk, and he's all buy into the community stuff, the fact that it isn't just what I experienced as a player at juniors, where you just went out and it was only about winning, and it was only the team that mattered, fuck all else mattered really. And I like the fact that you've all bought into the kind of long game and the kind of big picture. You're talking about doing the hard graft with the slabs and stuff. That's something I really like about, obviously Dak's my mate, but that's something I really like about what they're doing at Ashfield. They're doing everything there, but they'll get to the stage where what you're at now, they won't have to. They'll put the time in, they'll get away from it. And I think it's great for our level that so many guys like yourselves and the guys we've had on are pushing so much for it.
You know what that is? This was my big thing, Strain, Cashy, for doing this, right? This was totally for me, this podcast, have a bit of fun and a laugh and a carry on, but this is what I want. I want people to see how talented and how good characters that we've got at our level. You know that way you see when we talk to the likes of yous and every guest we've had on, Moff and Mick and Maxie and everybody, see the way they talk about it. I'm not just saying this, right, because I'm biased, but
they're better than some of the biddies that's up there managing clubs in the senior ranks, and that's just my personal opinion. I've not played under them, but I can tell with the way how passionate they speak about the club and their philosophies on the game and how they want the game to be played and progression and that they.
Do you know where that comes from, Dak? Do you know where it comes from? And this is the truth. It comes from a love of football because of the social background that we came from. And that's the truth. We all probably are what you would call corner street kids who had a ball and we loved football and we grew up to love football first and foremost. And it's about putting something back. And I don't mean that in the old way, I'm doing this and that. You get a kick out of it. I wouldn't do it. Like, I've got 3 boys. I wouldn't. My missus, obviously, she grew up with football as well, but I wouldn't be able to spend the time if they didn't love it, if they didn't do it, because your demands would be elsewhere. And I could do other things with them and whatever else, but I love the football side. I walked by Cashie's old house the other day, and Cashie used to have, there's 7 houses, there's 5 houses now on Cashie's, what was his old back door where his dad stayed. And that was because when I used to go by and I was a wee bit older and he'd be playing out the back door, he'd just be kicking the ball. But that's what we had, that's all we had. Now, kids have changed. They have got material possessions that we didn't have back in the days. They've got a phone, they've got PlayStations. All right, I had an Atari or whatever else, but my first love was a football. And that's what they don't have nowadays. They don't have that togetherness that your pals are the thing that drive you on. And that's what I'm trying to show them, that football can bring you so much joy and happiness and brings you mates for life. I mean, you're talking about when you played with Cumnock and Auchinleck together. This is, you're now going back 15 years that you've got a bond with somebody. And they bonds only created just by sitting in front of a computer the way we are now and sitting with headphones on. I get that society's changed. I get that us as parents take the easy route to parent your kids and, say, do you know what? I know he's safe. I know he's in his room. I know he's playing with his PlayStation. But do you know what? Get out and go and kick a ball and become healthy and enjoy your life.
Just I know but PG were trying to finish up and Casio would be wanting to get his wee bit of finish. See, when that air job was up before Mark Kerr got it and your name was in the bookmakers, was that a legit, was there an opportunity for you, or were you ever asked about going for an interview for that job?
I would have loved to have even got an interview for that job, but just what you spoke about there's an air and grace about senior football that they wouldn't look to somebody who's no managed at a full-time level, despite what they've done. I spoke to Faz about this before. Faz spoke about the job that Gins did at Dumbarton, and when the St Mirren job came up, he said, the reason he didn't get that job is because of who he was, not because of what he'd done. And there's an element of that with the players that play at this level as well, because they haven't come through youth systems and been full-time with a full-time club. The 10 clubs will overlook them. Look at the boy that's at Ashfield that scored 34 goals. He's got 50 goals or something his first season that came for the Church League. He played in a friendly against us. He played in a friendly, Big Callum, against us and absolutely destroyed us. And I'm like, wow. And see, as a manager, the satisfaction that gets you picking somebody out like that. Like, I tend to think I did with Ross Stewart as such. Like, you go, there's something there, there's potential there. There's potential at our level of football, bar none. Everybody that's went from our level of football has went on and done well. Your Chris Erskines, your Doolins, people that have done. There's talent at this level, but there's a snobbery. And do you know what? See if they're only going to look, we'll bypass them.
Well, that's the thing, just to finish on, because I think that's a really good point you've made to finish there. The pyramid system will start to take that away. Now the juniors is gone, you're going to start progressing. You've got your clubs like yourselves, Clydebanks, Talbot, Stavros, whatever, will start moving up the leagues. See, in 5-10 years' time, that will start to dwindle away where, I don't know, fucking Wraith Rovers will go, Chris Strain, he's done a great job. He's actually got co-winning for the bottom level at the juniors into the League 2. I will maybe take a punt on him, where before, that was a closed shop. But honestly, guys, thank you very much for coming on tonight. Strainy, particularly on your birthday. I really appreciate that, mate.
Birthday, we've missed a 2-2 thriller, by the way. It's
2 weeks. Fucking hell, man. Well, thank you very much, lads. It's greatly appreciated, and we wish you all the best when the season starts back.